let's talk about this month's message from the Masters for April 2018. And I'm sure you're feeling the intensity as much as I am. So I was very relieved when that theme came through, because it certainly reassured me with a lot of the experiences I've been having in recent days and weeks, and I'm sure that we'll continue to have in the next few weeks. So for me, the intensity has really been experienced not only through my senses. My vision has changed in the last few weeks. Colours are sharper. Things seem a little bit brighter to me. I'm definitely feeling more in terms of sensitivity to touch, but also energetic sensitivity to environments. I've found that very interesting. I seem to be picking up a lot more than I usually do when walking into a room or in feeling into a situation with somebody. The intensity for sure, though, has been on an emotional level. And there just seems to be quite a lot that's coming up in terms of fierceness, determination, defiance, and a general lack of tolerance for most things that are occurring around me. Interesting to hear that this intensity is not so much a response to a situation, because it's so easy for us to interpret how we feel about things as a response. Whereas in April's message, St Germain was really clear that it's valuable for us to start thinking about our emotional intensity as a precursor to a situation. So in other words, it's a moment of potential, a moment of creation, where we could be directing it perhaps towards what it is that we would like to occur. What kind of changes are we after? If you're anything like me, when you've had experience of emotional intensity and outbursts, you tend to feel quite guilty afterwards. I think that being mindful in the moment that the intensity is not about a response to a situation, and it's not about trying to control a situation, but if we can just catch ourselves in that moment and just remind ourselves that there's intensity rising here. It's not a response, it's an opportunity to do something new. It's an opportunity to do something different, or create something different, or express something that hasn't been expressed yet. I know that I've had many situations in recent weeks, and I will continue to, with family members, friends, colleagues, and sometimes even strangers, where that intensity arises within me. And rather than be frustrated or irritated and think that there's something about what's happening around me that isn't appropriate, I'm trying to remind myself it's okay, something new is happening here. So for me, when that frustration, irritation, anger, intensity arises, that's my cue to stop. What's happening here? This is a moment of potential. This is a moment for opportunity where something new can happen. And that puts me into the position of being a witness and an active participant in what happens next. So another topic that came up in the April monthly message that I feel is worth looking at is this concept of deregulation. Because our sleep patterns, hormonal patterns, breathing regularity, nervous system cycles are all over the place at the moment. And it's really easy to think that we need to get ourselves back into order. However, the message as we heard it was that it's about the allowing of that deregulation that will bring us back into a new kind of rhythm that will allow us to actually do more and create more. For me in particular, this is really interesting about how the concept of having all the different aspects of our lives start to move in the same rhythm comes together. I think I began to explore this probably about mid-2017, where I realized that I had a working life, I'm a parent, I'm a partner, I have friends, and I also have things that I like to do for myself. And I was compartmentalizing my life. So I have this rhythm here and this rhythm here and this routine here and this way of doing things here. And I suddenly got very clear that I wanted to see if I could create the kind of life where everything comes together in the same place. So everything works together in perfect harmony. That's really challenging to do when you have certain routine and structure for each of these parts of your life that makes them work. But the decompartmentalizing and bringing everything back into a natural order means that we have to be willing to be unregulated for a while. So it can feel like your life's all over the place, or that you don't have a lot of rhythm or structure. But if you think about it, how we think about rhythm and structure is generally in terms of consistency and predictability. And I don't know about you, but my life is definitely not consistent or predictable at all at the moment. So it was encouraging for me to hear those words, that when you are deregulating, you're just in a space that's allowing a new kind of harmonic order to come into play. I think my greatest teacher at this time with deregulation is my teenage son. Speaking of deregulation, sleeping patterns are very interesting at the moment. So I'm listening to April monthly message and exhaling and breathing and allowing him to get up at 11 o'clock in the morning and trying to trust that there is something that is happening here in his re-regulation, or in his deregulation, I should say, about getting into cosmic order. It's very difficult as a parent, as many of you know, when you're trying to move more into a natural rhythm in harmony with the planet and universe, when there are so much demands that are created on our lifestyles around rhythm and order. One of the other very potent messages that came out of this month's message from St Germain is about our need to fix things up from the past, tie up loose ends, and actually address our history with our intensity rather than use it to move into something new. I know that in terms of making changes in our lives, we tend to think that we can't go ahead and do so until things are tied up. And yet, when that new period of creation happens for us as we're understanding, that's when the intensity arises. But how easy is it for us to attribute intensity to what's already happened in our lives? For example, if we start to get highly irritated or restless, and restlessness is a big one this month. Restlessness, but you don't know what you want. Irritation, but you don't know what you're irritated about. So what we tend to do is go into history, find something that can attribute for that, and then we tend to attach the feeling that we're having to something that's already happened. Now what this does is it actually puts us into a loop of attending to something that's already occurred, which actually prevents us from moving forward into anything new. So that's a very, very valuable one, I think, for all of us this month, is when that intensity or that restlessness arises. Just because you don't know what it is, resist the temptation to find something that accounts for it and actually just be in it and use it as an opportunity to say, something new is happening here. I need to be alert. This is an opportunity. This is possibility and potential. So I think that's a really great reminder for all of us, because we always tend to think that we don't have permission to move forward unless everything from the past has been resolved. Now, you know, we could really stay in patterns of resolving for eons. And in fact, humanity has stayed in patterns of resolving for eons. That's what the karmic cycle's been about. So this is our opportunity, instead of accounting for the restlessness and the irritation from our past, to actually just watch it and see it as the birthing of something completely new. So that's all for this month's summary of St Germain's monthly message. I look forward to speaking with you all again soon.